What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Daily Fantasy Racing Podcast. This edition is going to cover the Daytona Duel races. Of course, the Daytona Duels are qualifying races for the Daytona 500. They'll take place on Thursday and set most of the field for the Daytona 500. It's a pretty fun event, and I grew up watching it in the middle of the afternoon when it was a twin 125s. I loved that as a kid. I got the day off of school sometimes to watch it. It was kind of a cool event. Obviously, in the middle of the day is not great for TV, so they moved it at night, and they expanded it back in like 2005 to 150 miles, so added 10 more laps and made it more of a spectacle at night on Thursday. But it's still a fun event, still fun to get cars back on track at Daytona. So without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, with me, as always, is Jason, FreeNASCARDFS. How you doing tonight, Jason?
Man, I'm great.
And what do you think of these races?
I'm pumped to be in Daytona week, right? It's finally here. We've got duels coming up. We got qualifying this week. You know, that's what we're here to talk about, the duels. It's awesome that we're talking about the duels. There happens to be two of us here. There's normally 3, 4, 5 guys here. It's the first time we get to do a show with just us two, so it makes sense to do the duels. But yeah, pumped up about the race on Thursday night, getting the content out and getting into the swing of things.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a short turnaround. Unfortunately, the single car qualifying is Wednesday night now. You know, again, grew up with it Sunday, the day after the Busch Clash, which was on Saturday. You know, Speed Weeks used to be this drawn out, 10-week process, and now it's changed a little bit. We get single car qualifying on Wednesday with no practice leading into that. Duels on Thursday, and then into the weekend with the rest of the racing. What do you think about the new schedule, the way it's laid out?
Yeah, we would have already had cars on track by now, would have already seen some practice seed, would have already known who's on the pole by now. Yeah, it kind of sucks to not have it drug out. I mean, I hate that it's all, especially from a content standpoint, it sucks for us, like qualifying on Wednesday night and have to turn around and produce content for Thursday. Like, we'd like to have that nice breather of 4 or 5 days to evaluate the slate. But NASCAR likes to make changes. So, but regardless, we do have the duels coming up, and you've mentioned that's a qualifying race, and we do have DFS action.
Money to be made.
Money to be made, even though it's a qualifying race. So basically what the duels do, right? So we have the qualifying on Wednesday night, and that's going to set your pole sitters. So your top 2 qualifiers, and that's going to get your pole, and it's going to get your second place finisher. Those guys are locked in to the Daytona 500 field. They're going to start first or second, regardless what happens in that duel races. The rest of the field is going to be set by these duel races, right? So the first race, I believe, is going to be the inside row, and the second race is going to be the outside row. So however these guys finish in that race is how they're going to start the Daytona 500. So what that means is it's not going to be like a normal super speedway race, right? You're not going to see these guys out there really pushing too hard. They're not going to push the limits that far. I mean, they want to win this race. Yeah, they want to start up close, but it's more important to take care of their car. And this is the first time these cars will really be on the track together, so there's going to be a lot of feeling out of these cars in the pack. It's going to be essentially like a glorified practice in a sense, but you're still going to have from a DFS standpoint, though, what that means for us, it means we're going to have a lot less variance. We're not going to see that carnage that we typically see at a super speedway race. And it's going to give us an opportunity to play those guys who are good at super speedways and count on them to make their way to the front. That's typically what we've seen in the past. But speaking of that front of the field, I think the other big takeaway from that is we've touched on that the top 2 qualifiers are locked into this race. So that typically makes the pole sitters, right, is a disastrous play from a DFS standpoint. If you look at the last 5 years of dual races, the last 10 pole sitters, we've only had one of them finish in the top 6 scoring on DraftKings scorings in those races. And you can just see, looking at this graphic here, is just abysmal scoring. We have 17th, 19th, 21st, 22nd ranked drivers. They just don't finish the race, right? If they get shuffled out of that lead pack or out of that front position, they're just going to pull off and park their car because they're locked into the 500. They got no reason to race. They're going to test it out, see what their car is, and they'll park it and don't want to risk going to that backup car.
Yeah, for sure. It's just not worth it to them. And in today's day and age, when nothing really pays, there's a couple of points to be had. They do give points to the top 10 in these races, but there's just not a lot to gain there. And there's a lot to lose, heading into the 500. So you definitely don't see the drivers that are locked in first or second really pushing it a whole lot. But that doesn't necessarily mean we are not playing dominators. in this race, we are still trying to attack drivers who are going to lead, believe it or not, even though it's a super speedway. And I know you have some good information on that. So I'm going to throw that up as well. Just give me 1 second here and let me get everything I need presented for us. But
yeah, but no, just to your point about like the dominators. Yeah, dominators are something that are going to be an important in this race, even though we have fewer laps and we normally don't target those dominator points on those lower lap race. But with this being a smaller field, position differential ain't that huge. Those guys who do get up front and lead can lead 30 to 40 laps, and those points are what's going to put them in that top 6 scoring positions, which is really what you're looking for to target big in those GPP. Most likely, salary is not going to come into a factor in these races, so you're going to most likely the top 6 scorers are going to be that optimal lineup. But just look, and when you're looking at those dominator performances, 7 of the last 10 dual races did see a dominator type performance in those top 6 scorers. But right here, what we're looking at, this is a graphic breaking down of like how points were scored in the dual races in the last 5 years. So this is looking at the top 6 scorers in each race, and the starting range we saw those scores come from. So you can see that that's 6 through 10 range and that 1 through 5 range. That front of the pack is actually where the majority of the top scorers coming from these races, which is complete opposite of what we think of when we think of super speedway racing, right? You want to stack the back, you want to get the position differential, which you still are getting a position differential. It's just in a different form. These guys aren't really driving from the back in this short race. And those guys in that 1st through 10th range actually are the guys who are also going to score those dominator points. All those dominators I mentioned came from guys starting higher up than 9th.
Yeah. So I think that graph's really cool. One of the biggest takeaways, like you said, is it's not the guys in the back, right? We go to Daytona, we look at the 500, the stack to back hashtag is going to be thrown out there a lot of carnage, a lot of things going on. But in these races, without the variance, without the carnage, we do see the better cars, the teams with more speed, deliver more often than not. And only 8 drivers out of the last 10 races, it looks like 13% have been in the top 6 DK scores in the slate. So that's a really impressive stat. That shows that we do not need to be attacking those drivers starting the back. And most of the time that's because it's JJ Yeley and a Rick Ware car or BJ McLeod. And honestly, they're locked in. They have, a charter. They're guaranteed to be in this race. They don't need to be messing in this race at all, and they just check out, right? So, that's a really cool stat to look at there. And I think it's really impressive that 6 through 10 is coming up with 38% of our top 6 DK scores. So that needs to be an area we hammer home in these duels, not one that we would typically do. In the Daytona 500, that's almost like a no-fly zone for me when I'm building lineups. Maybe one guy gets sprinkled in from that range, but to really attack that area in the duels is surprising, but makes a lot of sense considering the type of race it is.
Yeah, because 5 or 6 position differential points in this race is actually pretty high upside in a race that only has 16 drivers. And the other thing to focus on is that front of those field, that guys starting in that 1st through 5th range. Mind you, there's 15 guys, but you got to remember, we just eliminated the pole sitters, right? So it's really only looking at the 2nd through 4th range of guys we're even considering playing, right? And these are guys who are getting there strictly by finish, right? Of those 15 drivers that are making up that sample there, 14 of them finished in the top 3 in their race, and 5 of them won their race. So half of the dual races have been won by guys starting in that top 5 position.
That's a stat right there. That's impressive. So that leads me to, we kind of touched on this earlier. There are cars that have to qualify in. 2 cars will be locked in through their qualifying speed, which
I don't want to stop you. I just had one more last point about this chart before we start.
Do it. Give them the info.
Yeah, the last little piece of information here. This is all going to be in my article as well. But that little segment that we see there with those guys starting in that 11th and further back range, right? The cool thing about that is when you look at that, is that's actually really predictable, the guys that are going to have those performances. Because when you look at that, that's 22 performances there from guys starting 11th on back. 18 of those performances came by guys who have won a Cup Series race on a super speedway track. So if you got a Cup Series winner, a guy who can win on the super speedways starting on 10th or back, you lock them in. That's the guys who are going to come from the back and then start the front.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's the guys like Jamie McMurray when he drove the 40 car. It's things like that where it's like,
okay, Bubba Wallace has done it 3 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we need to attack the good drivers and the quality drivers, the drivers that are gonna be in good equipment and know how to do this, they're the ones that we need to look in that range for. That's phenomenal. Honestly, I know how I'm building my lineups now. So let's move on. Like I was saying before I was interrupted.
Sorry, I felt important.
No, that was actually the best interruption I've ever had in my life. So there are 4 open spots. Basically 40 cars make the race. 36 are locked in due to charters. So we have 4 open spots. 2 of those are going to be filled from cars on qualifying speed, and then 2 are going to be filled from the dual races themselves on Thursday night. So there is some implications for that race. There is some stuff that matters. And you'll notice because of the way that things are split up, there may be 4 or 5 open cars in one duel and only 1 in the other. It gets kind of weird sometimes how it works out. I don't love that this is the way we award positions when there's only a handful of guys and there's only 2 spots to battle for. It's kind of weird. But that's something to pay attention to. I think it was last year, JJ Yeley was literally a lap down with like the entire second stage and somehow made a pass on the last lap to get into the race. And it was a really cool moment. We still get those moments, but it's still awkward with the way we award it. Anyways, with no practice going into qualifying, we got 6 drivers that have to qualify that are open teams, at least 6. We may get 1 or 2 pop up here late. So I'm going to throw these drivers up, and they have a lot of implications to the race. Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, Connor Daly, Austin Hill, Travis Pastrana, and Jimmy Johnson, 7-time champion Jimmy Johnson, are trying to race their way into the Daytona 500, which is kind of crazy that we're now over 40 cars. That's great, but it's tough to get no practice before qualifying. They have to go and lay down a lap, hopefully be quick enough to advance, and if not, they have to advance through the duels. What do you make of this whole situation? And what do you think? I mean, just give me your picks. Actually, give me the 4 guys you think will come out of this, and tell me what you're thinking overall.
Yeah, I hate the fact that, like you said, how they have to come out on a cold track, not running these cars anymore for a long off season. A lot of these are smaller teams, first time these cars have even ever been. These teams that put these cars together, these teams have been put together, and they got to go out there and run a lap, right? And it's for all the marbles to make this race. I feel like they all should race in. Like let's let them all race in. Whoever finishes up front, split them up evenly. Let's get it done right. But without that. It's tough to pick here because it feels like you got it. Like it hurts to leave out any of these guys. Obviously, the obvious choice here is we're going to leave out Connor Daly. I don't think the money team really brings much motor to them, right? I don't know. That's
you don't think they have money?
Whatever. Sorry. Experience. I don't know what you call it. It's not. I'm not going to say bad equipment. Whatever. Like whatever it is you looking for in a team, I'm going to count out that Connor Daly there. Mm-hmm. So that leaves us with, Pastrani, Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, Austin Hill, Jimmy Johnson. God, I'm going to probably break a lot of hearts here. I'm going to put Jimmy Johnson out. I'm going to put him on the outside in. I'm going to put 7 time out, okay? He's been running any car for the last several years. It's not like he was lights out when he finished his career, when he was racing daily and weekly, right? We saw the decline. Like, are we thinking he's going to get back into this car for the first time in these new cars? Like you said in the situation, first time feeling these cars in this pack after racing that open wheel Indy car for so long. Like, he could struggle in the beginning of this race and struggle to find speed and struggle to get up there. I mean, it is a part-time team as well. I'm going to be bold here and say it's Pastrani, the 2 Smiths, and Austin Hill who make it.
Cool. I like that. So the one caveat I'll throw out there is, and I know the cars got some modifications, but Jimmy Johnson's been running that Garage 56 car for HMS, what they're going to do at Le Mans. So he's basically been running a next-gen car at Daytona. Of course, it's on the road course, but he has some experience in that car, that style of car, with obviously some modifications. So I think he actually won't be as far behind as Travis Pastrana. And Pastrana, I feel awful for because of this situation. He's not going to have any experience heading into this situation. And, he just won a dirt race at Volusia, which is awesome. He's showing that he's a good driver overall.
He'll be on the trucks, right? He's going to at least get some track time on the trucks. I know it's not the same, but I mean, at least he's on the Daytona the day before, right?
But the key is that
he won't be in it before the fucking
after.
duels. Yeah. Sorry, I cussed on you.
So it just, that's a driver I'm really concerned with. Chandler Smith, Zane Smith, these guys have been around the garage. They've been around. They've been, changing gears in these cars. Zane Smith ran a race last year. Austin Hill may have, I can't remember if he ran a race or not last year, but it is tough for these drivers regardless. And it's a tough situation. For me, I think Connor Daly's the odd man out for sure. That's a tough group to outrun in general. A lot of talent there. And I think Austin Hill's the other guy out. He will have some teammates depending. He's obviously an RCR affiliated driver. Chandler Smith has a colleague teammate in there, a couple of colleague teammates to work with. Zane Smith's got, front row. So there's teammates to work. And then Jimmy Johnson, of course, has Eric Jones and Noah Gregson to work with. Pastrana has 2311 as well. But I think Austin Hill's kind of odd man out. I like the other 4 teams. I think they're a little bit stronger. I think Ford Alliance will help Zane Smith out. That is a Ford, development driver that they love everything about, and they're going to do all they can to get him in. But I as a fan of Travis Pastrana, I'm just hoping he makes it. Like I love that dude. I grew up on him, and so that's he probably should be out, but I want him in, so I'm going to say he's in.
I think that's a good call with Austin Hill, because even in that 62 car, as much success as Brendan Gaughan had in that in the years, like even when we came to the 500, like even when Gregson was in it, like he's still fighting for that last spot. It's not like they're still tensed out moments. And I think Gregson missed the race 2 years ago in it, or did he miss it last year? When did he miss it 2 years ago?
I don't remember. Yeah, there was
2 years ago he missed the 500 and the 62
that they missed. I can't remember why though. There was a situation where I remember missing the race. It's still, obviously the new car, next gen car is going to be a little bit different. The way they set it up, they're going to know what they need to make the car go fast for the most part. They may not have those little edges trimmed to gain every little tenth of a second or whatever, hundredth of a second. But for the most part, I think they'll be up to speed. The 50 car, I don't think will be, and that's the key. I think they're kind of the one that are going to struggle, and it's a shame. But someone's got to go home, right? At the end of the day. So I think that kind of wraps it up for us here. I don't know if
nobody has to, right? We used to run 43 cars.
No, I don't bring that up because I'll say cut the field to 32. So
but when you have these, if you're sending sending these cars home, it's not like we're sending home we ain't sending home Greg Biffle.
But they're full. They're not full-time cars. They're doing this because of the big paycheck at the Daytona 500. They're not doing this for any other reason. If we have 40 full-time cars that can pay their employees and all run the same speed and be great, but we don't. We have.
But we're not 43 for the 500. Just for 500.
I'm okay with that. Well, in the Indy 500 does 33, right? So the Indy 500 has a bigger field size than any other race for IndyCar.
Yeah, why not?
I'm on board with that. That for just the 500, just a special event. Yeah, I can get on board with that. I like that for sure. So let's wrap it up. We don't have a whole lot more here to talk about. Obviously, I think you did a good job kind of explaining a good direction to go with lineup building. I love the stuff you're going to have there. You're going to have that in your free article. I assume you're going to have all that in there, which is great. So let us know what you got going on, and for this race and for the 500, because obviously we got a big week ahead.
Yeah. Check out my article will be out probably Thursday morning before the duels, and we'll have qualifying by then. So I'll obviously have my cheat sheet there with all the stats, and I'll pick out some drivers for you that I like in a core for each duel race. And then obviously we have the big race, the big show on Sunday, and my article will be out again at Run Pure Sports Daytona 500. And of course, make sure you guys are subscribing to this channel and check us out on Thursday night, because I know Ryan and I will be previewing the Daytona 500. And we'll be live, right, as the duels are going on, as the duels are wrapping up, right? So it'll be fun to have that little sweat and see how good we all did.
So, yeah, you brought it up to me after the last show. We didn't bring up and ask anybody to subscribe. We haven't done it so far this show, so good job getting that out there. Hey, everybody, please subscribe. That'd be great. We will have a live show 9 o'clock on Thursday, which is exactly when the second duel will start. So 9 o'clock Eastern is when Duel 2 is scheduled to start. That's when our show schedule will start. So we will take a look at the duels head on, see what's going on, and have our normal show and kind of kick it off that way, which will be fun. So we got a lot of content coming, obviously, this entire week. Jason's got all his stuff going on. I, of course, got my stuff going on. I accidentally shared my screen way too early because I suck at this. I need Gordo here all the time. But let me just back up. So DailyFanRacing.com, we got a special going on for Daytona 500. 50% off your monthly subscription with promo code Daytona50. So literally just punch that code in. You get 50% off. It's going to bring it down to like $17 or something for the entire first month. There will be F1 races including that as well. They kick off at the beginning of March. So There's a bunch of racing going on, Xfinity trucks, everything will be covered. And so this is the best deal. If you want to try us out, anything like that, check out this promo. Definitely recommend it. We got so much content coming. Aside from that, on this channel, we're going to have a ton of stuff. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like, share it, tell your mother, whatever. We're trying to grow this thing so we can, stay here long term and have lots and lots of fun with it. I got a free newsletter, which we're going to put a bunch out. I think the first one just came out already. So that one's probably in inboxes right now, but we got a couple more coming this week. That's free Discord. There's free content out there from us if you don't necessarily want the subscription side, but just check it all out. You can catch it all through my Twitter feed or DM me and ask me, hey, where can I get this? We're pretty friendly. Jason's super friendly. He likes to talk to people. So just DM us, say, hey, man, let me catch this info, and we'll figure out how to get you sorted. But that's it. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. 20 minutes, short one for the duels. The duels are short races. We're going to be short. But I appreciate you, Jason. Thanks for jumping on with me early in the week and knocking this video out. And I can't wait to do it again with you on Thursday.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one. See you.
Peace.